being joined today by Mr. Raymond Cassar, one of the Detroit area's premier criminal defense attorneys. Mr. Cassar, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So if a person is a victim of any type of sexual abuse or assault, they should immediately get help by calling the National Sexual Assault Hotline. That number is 1-800-656-HOPE. But what should the person who is accused of committing a sex crime do?
The first thing that someone who's accused of being involved in a sexual assault, the best thing you can do is contact a good attorney that practices in this area. You don't just want any attorney, you want a criminal attorney that does this type of work, and they're called CSC cases, or criminal sexual conduct cases.
Okay, so it seems like it would be easy for an alleged victim to make up or exaggerate an incident. Are innocent people ever wrongly prosecuted for something that they didn't do?
Unfortunately, many times, innocent people are wrongly accused of these things. Whether it's a fight with an employer or a spouse or a boyfriend-girlfriend situation that goes awry, a lot of people are wrongly accused or wrongfully accused of this, and they need good representation to make sure that this does not become a permanent mark on their record.
Okay, so what happens if the alleged victim changes their mind and doesn't want to press charges? Will the charges be dropped?
Unfortunately, not in Michigan. In Michigan, even if the complainant in this case says that they don't want to go through with the case, the state continues with it or picks up the case and runs with it. And the reason they do that is because there's too many times where a complainant might be threatened or harassed not to continue with the charges. So the court or the prosecutor's office doesn't worry about that. They say, well, we're going to continue whether the complainant wants to or not.
We often see cases in the media where a person's been prosecuted for a sex crime many years after the alleged event took place. I'm sorry, can I try that again?
Sure. Keep rolling. It's okay.
We often see cases in the media where a person has been prosecuted for a sex crime many years after the alleged event took place. Isn't there a time limit on how long after an alleged event happens that a person can be charged with a sex crime?
And there should be. There should be a statute of limitations. Unfortunately, if it's criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, there is no statute of limitations, which means it could go 30, 40, 50 years before they prosecute the individual. In most cases, there is a shorter statute, but it's not that short. It's usually around 25 years. The problem is, if there's an allegation out there, it could come up at any time, and unfortunately that person's going to need a good attorney to clear their name.
In the media, we hear of sex crimes being referred to as having different degrees. Can you explain the difference between first, second, third, and fourth degree sexual conduct in Michigan?
Certainly. First degree is the most serious offense. First degree involves penetration, and penetration can be oral, anal, digital penetration of an individual. Usually with first degree criminal sexual conduct, we're having a situation where the person has been hurt, there's an injury that has occurred in this case, and that person is looking up to life imprisonment. Second degree criminal sexual conduct is generally a touching, a sexual touching in the buttocks area, the breast area, inner thigh area, and it's usually of an individual who's under the age of 16. Third degree criminal sexual conduct is what is commonly referred to as date rape. That is a situation where two people are out on a date or they're in a dating relationship. There is a sexual act that has commenced between the two and one of the parties did not consent. Third degree carries up to 15 years in prison. And then we have fourth degree. Fourth degree criminal sexual conduct would be a situation where two adults are walking and one of the adults touches the other person inappropriately, touches the breast area, the inner thigh, the buttocks area, but does it for sexual gratification. And a fourth degree criminal sexual conduct is a high misdemeanor, or also known as a 2-year low felony. All four of them are serious because all four of them require mandatory sex offense registration.
So it sounds like the consequences of being convicted of criminal sexual conduct are very serious. Can you discuss some of the penalties associated with a criminal sexual conduct conviction?
Well, once again, the penalties vary on what the person is charged with, and again, how many counts a person is charged with. He can be charged with several counts of CSC in the first degree or CSC in the second degree. The penalties will range depending on how many charges that are filed against him. But I think that the key thing that we have to remember is, despite what the potential penalty is, the long-term effect is a mandatory life of registering yourself as a sex offender. For the rest of your life, you could be known to anyone who goes on the internet as a sex offender. And talk about giving you trouble later in life, that's probably the worst thing that can happen to you.
We hear about the so-called statutory rape or Romeo and Juliet cases, where a couple's sexual activity was consensual, but then one of the parties was underage. How does Michigan treat the age of consent?
Well, they look at it a little bit differently. The age of consent in Michigan is 16. So if there is a sexual act between someone who's under the age of 16 years old, it is considered statutory rape, and it will be prosecuted in Michigan. Now, I know that there's a lot of dating situations where it could be boyfriend and girlfriend, and he's 16 and she is 15. But in Michigan, if there is sex with someone who's under the age of 16, it is statutory rape, and it will be punished and prosecuted under the law.
If a person is convicted of criminal sexual conduct in Michigan, I understand that they have to register as a sex offender. Can you explain what it means to register as a sex offender and what that impact is on a person's life?
Well, there's a new bill pending that is changing the registration requirements. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all bad. It's either 15 years, 25 years, or life registration. And registration means that you would have to register 4 times a year. You go to the local police station, you tell them where you live, you give them your address, where you're working, your phone number, and they keep that list updated. And the problem with that registration list is that anyone in the state of Michigan, actually in the U.S., can access that sex offense registration list and see it online. They can pinpoint it from neighborhoods. You can type in a particular zip code and it will bring up all of the individuals that have been convicted and now registering as sex offenders.
If a person's been contacted by the police or a detective, or if he or she believes that they're under investigation for a sex crime, what should they do?
The most important thing that you can do if you're accused of sexual assault is to contact a good attorney, a good criminal attorney that specializes in this area. You do not want someone who does a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It is your life on the line. It's a sexual assault. The penalties are very, very high. So you want to make sure you get someone who's familiar and who's been doing this type of work for a long period of time. They're going to be able to give you the right path, tell you how to handle the case. They're going to be able to deal with the judges and the prosecutor, and ultimately they're going to be able to save your life.
If the detective or police officer says that they're going to take it easy if the accused person cooperates, should the person being accused just make it easier and admit the crime or plead guilty?
It's a common tactic for police officers to say, hey, listen, we just want to find out what happened, especially if it's between young people. The worst thing that you can do if you're being accused of some sort of a crime or investigated for some sort of a sexual assault is to ask to speak with an attorney. The law in Michigan is clear that once you ask for the right to speak with an attorney, the investigation, the questioning has to cease. And that is the safest thing that anyone can do. Contact an attorney first before you make a statement to the police.
So you're saying a person should absolutely always enter a plea of not guilty and not make any further statements until they have a lawyer. But what about asking for a court-appointed lawyer?
The problem with the court-appointed attorneys is that they're not going to have the time and the resources to investigate the crime fully. They're only going to be able to give you a limited amount of time to work on your case. These are really, really serious cases that could put you away for many, many years. This is something that you want to go to family and friends and say, look, I need some help. I need to get a good lawyer who deals with CSC cases, criminal sexual conduct cases. Obviously, as a last result, if your family does not have any money, you're forced to use the court-appointed attorney. But it's always best to go to family and friends and see if you can get someone who's really going to fight for you.
Okay, so it sounds like the safest option for someone being charged with a sex crime is to immediately discuss their situation with a criminal defense attorney who's experienced in these cases. Now, is there anything important that we've missed here that you'd like to add to our Michigan viewers who would like information about sex crimes here in Michigan?
Well, I just want the viewers to know that, my firm has been doing these types of cases for over 28 years, and we love what we do. And that gives us an advantage every time we go into the courtroom. I've tried many, many of these cases, and many of them have had some very, very, very good results. Even difficult cases where the person was very concerned or their charges were very serious. The key thing is you want to get someone who knows what they're doing, who's specialized in this area, and can really sit down with you and give you a plan and fulfill your wishes. We want someone who can communicate. That's really important. And most importantly, you want someone that you can get along with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cassar.
It's been my pleasure.